Hi, I'm Kira, and welcome to my presentation when it comes to theories of behaviorism. So, what is behaviorism? As defined by this definition right here, it's mostly about everything external around us. And the overview I'll be talking about would be the conditioning of operant and classical and why it's effective in teaching. So these are the four scientists behind behaviorism of both classical and operational, and as I talk about each definition, I'll be explaining their experiments also. So these are the two kinds of behavior to consider. Voluntary is basically about the actual purpose, what is to gain from, while the involuntary is basically based on responses and emotions and anything physical that we cannot control. So classical conditioning is basically about the response of the stimuli. So after a period of time, especially when it comes to learning behavior, we tend to get familiar with it with certain aspects. For example, with Pavlov's approach, as you can see in this diagram above me, there is a food, and then there's a dog. Each time he sees a food, he salivates. But over a duration of time, the dog starts to salivate when he hears the fork after consistent perseverance and timing when the fork is tuned. And another example of classical is the Watson arena with little Albert. Like before all the stimuli and changes have been taken in place, he likes the nutrostimulus, which is the rat. And over a period of time with timing of the hammer, poor Albert, he actually cried each time he saw the rat without any noise needed to be added to that. So the strengths and limitations of classical conditioning is it is a great way to modify behavior, and it does do a impact when it comes to research on methods of actually teaching things. However, the limitations is it does not fit the model of learning, and it is only initiated by the organism, so meaning the way we respond. And also, it's not a great way for obvious instructions. So sometimes when we learn new things, we don't quite understand what they mean. It might be due to language or different kind of word that we're thinking of. Which leads me to operant conditioning. So it's basically ways to strengthen or weaken behavior that is voluntary. A great way to explain that is the Thorndike with the trial and error and law of effect. So as you can see in this picture above my head, there is a cat in a box. So due to a lot of how it goes and ways to actually get outside the box, trial and error, eventually it learns the way to get out of the box, which is the law and effect. So another way to explain operant conditioning is the negative kind, which is the mouse. Each time it does not pull the lever, it gets shocked, as you can see with the diagram above my head, that where everything is. So over duration of time, when someone speaks or there's a signal of light, okay, the mouse grabs the lever, and if it does not grab the lever, it gets shocked. So as you can see, this is a diagram of what reinforcement of operant conditioning is. There's punishment, which is negative consequence, or the reward. So reinforcement is to increase behaviors and punishment is to decrease behaviors. And some of the examples of both of them are just right above next to me in this slide. So, which leads me to the ABC of operant conditioning. So, addition is pretty much the stimuli or an action that initiates the behavior, and the consequence is what is the outcome of that action of that behavior. So the strengths of behaviorism is it does change the behavior of a being either a child or an adult. It's also a great way to collect data, and especially when it's quantity data. And also, it kind of leaves our open sequence when it comes to learning. So once you establish foundation, you can have an ongoing sequence of actually building more onto that. However, there are limitations. It is a one-sided human approach. It does not account any internal influences like feelings, emotions, and other external things that's mostly taking up focus inside our minds. Also, it cannot really implement well with other styles of learning, and sometimes ethics with little Albert, for example, it does question to a degree. So, I mentioned a couple of things why it is effective, but these are the main reasons why it is effective in teaching. As you can see here with this definition, the applied behavior analysis is basically based on what's going on in the classroom. And the three type of styles we can do is precision teaching, direction instruction, and mastery learning. So how it can generalize and actually assess the skills of what the students currently possess, and we could build on top of that, and to maintain the desired behavior and learning qualities we want to flourish. And also, it kind of activates multiple senses instead of just focusing on specific academic material. They can learn what they need to learn in other ways. So, the most common traits that are used in the classroom is the shaping, the cueing, the chaining, and the prompting. In conclusion, I feel the operant conditioning of behaviourism is a better way to help students to learn and to progress through many activities such as games, also with rewards like stickers and all that, and also and some forms of punishment, I guess, like when it comes to timeouts and disabling, for example, the internet for a day. Anyway, thank you for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this presentation.